Welcome to the Spokesman Speaks, a podcast for farmers and ag professionals by the Iowa Farm Bureau, bringing you the news, experts, and educational insights that matter most. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to another special edition of the Spokesman Speaks podcast, brought to you on the first official day of Iowa Farm Bureau's 2021 annual meeting in Des Moines. I'm Caitlin Lamb, and today's episode is part 2 of a 3-part series we're sharing with you this week, featuring our 3 winners of Iowa Farm Bureau's Young Farmer Leadership Award. Yesterday, we gave you part 1 of the series with award winner Michael McEnany. Today, we're featuring my conversation with award winner Megan Kregel. And tomorrow, we'll visit with our 3rd winner, Cordt Holub. You can find all these conversations by subscribing to the Spokesman Speaks in your favorite podcast app. With that, let's travel to Northeast Iowa, where I had a chance to visit with Megan Kregel about her passion for sharing daily life on her dairy farm through social media, and how she's staying involved with her county farm bureau and community. I'm here with Megan Kregel in her dairy farm, and Megan, you are one of 3 winners of the Young Farmer Leadership Award from Iowa Farm Bureau. And so can you tell me a little bit more about your background in dairy farming?
Sure. So I am the 6th generation in my family to farm. Our farm in general has always been a livestock farm, so we've always had cows. I was always involved in dairy, even from a young age, starting out having your first calf and kitty calf show through 4-H, FFA. Those things, of course, were very important growing up, to do those things and be active within agriculture. And then beyond that, I went to Northeast Iowa Community College for 2 years, majoring in dairy science, transferred to Iowa State University to finish my dairy science degree, and then picked up a minor in journalism and mass communication. So I always knew I wanted to be involved in agriculture in one way or another. When I graduated Iowa State, I really wasn't quite sure that I would be necessarily on farm at the time, and my career path did take me a different direction, but dairy has always been at the root of basically everything I did.
So I'm happy to be out here on your farm, but this isn't the first time that we have met. We've seen each other at different Farm Bureau events here in Iowa. So can you tell me about your family's involvement with Iowa Farm Bureau?
Yeah, so in the past, I knew my grandpa was a Farm Bureau member. My parents are past recipients of an achievement award early on in their farming career. But I am actually, I believe, the first generation board member, Farm Bureau board member in our family. Being involved as a board member is what really kicked off the whole journey. And from there, I got involved in the discussion meet, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And that's really where I started building my very first connections of other young farmers across the state. So from discussion meet, it kind of evolved into farm team training. Additionally, Ag Leaders Institute, to which we traveled to DC for. I was also able to represent our county on the membership trip, which 3 years ago was to Savannah, Georgia, and then COVID year, and then to Montana.
Looking across your dairy barn here, there's a lot of beautiful ladies here with us today, and you said that on your family farm, you and your sister have been in charge of taking care of the animals, and that's been your primary focus. And are you seeing that there are a lot more young women coming back to the farm and being more involved, taking on a larger role like you have?
Yeah, I definitely think there is. Almost a third of all farm operators are women, and I think that's something to celebrate and be proud of. But I think not just on farm that you see it, but you're seeing it even in industry, whether it's people who are supporting me as a dairy farmer, from a milk hauler to a nutritionist to a calf specialist to a crop advisor, people in the FSA office. You just see women in all sorts of careers, not just necessarily on the farm itself. I think the other area that you're really seeing a lot of women and being able to showcase what we do within our roles and how diverse we are is on social media platforms. Like, those are women that I look up to, like the New Mexico Milkmaid or Annalise in Wisconsin. Those are women that I'm like, gosh, they're just killing it. Like, I want to be like those women.
I follow both of them on Facebook, and what they're doing
the messaging that they're coming out with to connect with consumers, how they're really out there, showing what a day in the life looks like. And they're wearing makeup because, you can work hard and wear makeup.
Yes.
I think those two especially are awesome. And you said you're not on Twitter, but you are on TikTok.
I am on TikTok.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. So tell me how that all came about, because you have quite a few followers now.
Yeah, I think I'm just over 180,000 and 3 or 5 million likes, something like that.
Good for you.
Yeah, TikTok's fun. When I started it, I actually started it just a year ago in September. So when I started it, it was purely for fun. I had been on the app for a couple of weeks, and as the app was learning what sorts of things I liked watching, of course, agriculture jumped right to the top. So I started getting all these agriculture videos, and a lot of it was crop farmers, not necessarily anything having to do with livestock. I wasn't seeing any of that. And I thought, I could do that. Like, I could do a little bit of that, and I could help connect to consumers a little more. One of the first videos I posted did really, really well, like 250-some thousand views in the first couple of days. And I thought, well, that was pretty easy. And then it just evolved from there, to be honest. It's kind of a little bit of a rabbit hole. Like, you can really just spend a lot of time doing it and not necessarily making the videos. The videos are easy to make. It's trying to keep up with the comments and interact with people. The better interaction you have with people, I think, the more of an impact you're making on their lives. So it's just been fun, and I will continue that journey, definitely. But yeah, TikTok it's fun.
And I know that I've seen a couple of your videos that other people have shared. I don't have TikTok because, well, I did have it at one point, and then I wasn't being very productive elsewhere in my life.
It's a rabbit hole.
It is a rabbit hole for sure. But I have seen your videos through other people sharing them on Facebook or other social media platforms, and so it has been fun. And I love the way that you talk about especially the calves, as if they're your kids too.
Yeah.
The way that you're talking about feeding them breakfast and making sure that they're healthy and having special names for some of them. How do you think that your videos are helping to build trust with a non-farming audience? What types of responses are you getting?
In general, the responses I get are overwhelmingly positive. When I initially started the app a year ago, I told myself that if it was overwhelmingly negative, I was just going to stop right away. That I didn't have that kind of time in my day or in my life for negativity. But it has been so overwhelmingly positive that it's just fun to go on the app and see who comments. And you do get hate from time to time. That's all part of it. And you do get those extremists with opposing views from yours that you just have to pretty much block right away and just pretend they weren't even there. But overwhelmingly positive, definitely. When I scroll through comments, I can almost tell immediately, just based on usernames and profile pictures. There are people who have been following me since the beginning, and they are always just extremely positive and always ask very inquisitive questions, and I have no problem answering any sort of question that comes in, whether it's from caring for our baby calves up to cows and what happens to these animals after they leave the farm, because we can't keep them forever. All of those hard questions get talked about. Environmental impact, hormones, nutrition. We talk about it all.
Awesome. I'm glad that you're not scared to approach those topics, especially when sometimes the answer might not be easy. Sometimes it is. But I do wonder, is there one question that continually comes up, like that people are really curious about or have been maybe even misinformed about?
One misperception that people always feel they have is that it's okay that I do a certain practice because I'm a family farmer, and people don't realize that 97% of farms are family farms. And so I always share that message, and I'm always commenting that statistic because it just changes the whole attitude of the conversation, that they had no idea that regardless of size, farmers care for what we do. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it. We care for our livestock. We care for our land. We have positive stewardship so that we can continue for multiple generations. Probably one of the hardest things for people to grasp is why we are raising animals indoors. I just simply explain that it is beneficial for the animal and the farmer to have these animals indoors. It does not mean that these animals are any less cared for. At the end of the day, as a human being, we appreciate all the luxuries of our homes, right? We like air conditioning, we like our heating. in the winter months, and why not be able to provide the same thing for the cows? Like, if I was a cow, I don't want to stand out in the rain all day today. And when it was 100 degrees a week ago, I didn't want to be out in that either. So they can have all the same modern luxuries that we have and perform better with those luxuries.
And I think that tells a lot about the story, because when I'm looking around at your cows in here, like, they're not actresses. I can see that they're pretty comfortable. They're eating. And
they don't act very well.
No, they don't. And so for people to get that inside view that they normally wouldn't be able to, I think is awesome. And so you recently just had a fun life event happen. You got engaged.
I did.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
Now, he's a dairy farmer, too. Did he do it in a barn or anything? Or?
No, he did not. He actually did it on my birthday, which was our anniversary of dating, too. So it was unique and special in that way. But I think we both spend enough time in the dairy barn that we didn't need that to be part of our life, our life story, too.
That makes sense. But you said that he raises Holsteins and you raise Jerseys, and you're combining those herds. So how's that going to go?
Yeah, it's a mixed marriage so far, and it's not even a marriage yet.
Is that like marrying an Iowa fan if you're a Cyclone fan or something?
Gosh, I don't know. It might be that crazy. It could be that crazy. Yeah, I think Ted is really coming around to the Jerseys, like, except when they make a mess in the stalls. Then I think he really curses under his breath then. But I think he likes them.
So did you see out of college that you would be here today where you're standing, or what happened along the way from then to now?
I would say that my career path shifted while I was in college. My first 2 years, I was very dairy production driven and took management courses in order to come back to a dairy farm. During my time at Iowa State, I saw other opportunities and other adventures and other experiences come to life that sort of shifted my focus. So when I was nearing graduation, Leo Timms actually told me about a job opportunity at the Northeast Iowa Dairy Foundation back at Calmer that would be doing public relations and marketing and working and reaching out to consumers and just helping to not only educate consumers but youth and provide continuing education opportunities for dairy producers. And I just thought, with my communications portion of my degree, it just sounded like it was right up my alley and something I would really enjoy. And at the time, there wasn't necessarily a spot for me back on the dairy anyways. So I took that avenue and I loved it. I loved that job. I actually worked in it for almost 7 years. And then the opportunity kind of arose for me to come back to the family farm. And so I did that then. But I very much enjoyed that experience.
So then throughout all of those experiences and where you are today, what types of challenges did you come across? What advice would you have to young farmers now that you know kind of what you know?
Yeah, I would say, my time specifically farming, I would say is probably even maybe less than some young farmers out there in Farm Bureau. I've only been back on the dairy for about 4.5 years. But I would say my biggest piece of advice, especially to like a college age grad or anyone contemplating coming back to their farm, is to get some experience working off the farm. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be on somebody else's farm. It doesn't mean you can't be in industry, but get some experience not just being employed by your family member or parents or whoever is involved in your farming operation. I think that is just instrumental in order to form other relationships, learning how to work with others. It was one of the best things I ever did, and it's always advice that I give, I guess, to go and work with other people, expand your horizons, do something even just for 6 months or a year that has you step out of your comfort zone.
And as part of this award, you have talked about a lot of the advocacy that you've done through whether it was a professional career or now through TikTok. And that kind of leads into who you chose for your grant money that came from the award. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so clearly dairy has always been near and dear to my heart. So naturally, in winning this award, I wanted to give those funds to an organization that could further dairy's mission in reaching out to specifically our youth. So at Calmer, there's a thing called the Iowa Dairy Story Program, and they see through about 1,000 students every year from all over Northeast Iowa, and those elementary age kids get an opportunity to learn about not only the nutrition benefits of milk, but how milk really comes from the things that a cow eats to the glass of milk that's on your table or any dairy product that you eat. So how she converts what she's eating into that nutritious and delicious product, how animals are cared for. They make their own ice cream while they're there that day. They get to tour the dairy. So it's all sorts of things that give them an opportunity to get connected to dairy in some way that, quite honestly, they wouldn't have the opportunity to do otherwise.
It made me think of my son, who's 3. He told me one time at daycare that one of his little classmates drinks, I think it was coconut milk or something. But then he looks at me and he says, "But I drink cow's milk because I'm a big guy, mama." Like, I don't know why he thought that, like, it had to do with growing up or whatever. But he was pretty proud, at least, that he was getting the real deal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's not milk, that other stuff.
Oh, yeah. And somehow he picked up on that. So I'm like, all right, maybe I'm doing this parenting thing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You got it. You got it.
So what's next on the horizon? We know that you're getting married, but are there different goals that you have for you and your husband's dairy farm?
So we both have big goals and large ambitions. We are going to farm together, and it is always been a dream of mine to do on-farm processing. I know Ted has his own ambitions as well, but that's something that I think we're really, especially in today's market, that people want to know exactly where that food product is coming from. And I think through TikTok, I've been able to tell that story so well and reach so many people that I feel like it's almost the next step and the next phase. So the on-farm processing is really big for me and something that I really want to dip our toes into and see how it goes.
So as the Young Farmer Leadership Award winner, you understand that leadership can happen outside of these barns walls, that you're in your community, that there's other ways to step up and be a leader. What path have you taken, and what advice do you have to young farmers who are looking for those leadership roles?
I feel very fortunate to always have had people invest in me from the time that I was a youth into my adulthood, and always just trying to give me the best resources and the best education. So I just feel like it's my obligation to give back, not only through my community groups that I serve on through our county dairy promotion committee and farm bureau and all of those grassroots efforts, but also through this social media adventure and really giving back in just simple knowledge of what agriculture is and just trying to connect people to how their food is produced and how our animals are cared for. My advice is always to just start somewhere. I look at some of the most successful leaders that I know, and they all started within their own communities. So whether that's, for me specifically, my county dairy promotion group, maybe it's your cattlemen's, maybe it's your soybean or corn association on a more local level. One of my favorite promotions that we do as a dairy promotion group is we actually supply all of the fluid milk to our local food shelf for the entire year. So any family in need, their milk supplies are met automatically just by our milk donation to the food shelf. That is a program that I'm extremely passionate about because milk is one of the most highly requested food products at any food pantry. I think for me and for anyone involved in agriculture, why we do this is usually a similar answer. It's how we were raised. It's what we grew up knowing. It's in our blood. And we could all certainly work other jobs that make more money and are less stressful, but I think all of us would feel less fulfilled.
Okay, if you haven't seen any of Megan's TikTok videos, check her out at Megan, that's MEGAN_DairyGirl. She's got a great message to share, and I'm excited to see where her advocacy journey takes her. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Come back again tomorrow for part 3 of our special podcast series with Cordt Holub of Tama County. Thank you for doing the work that inspires everything we do at the Iowa Farm Bureau. And thanks for listening to the Spokesman Speaks.
Thank you for listening to the Spokesman Speaks, a podcast by Iowa Farm Bureau. Check out more podcast episodes at iowafarmbureau.com/podcast. You can also find and subscribe to the Spokesman Speaks podcast in the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and other popular podcast apps. We appreciate your ratings and reviews, and we welcome you to email us your feedback at podcast@ifbf.org.